Hey everyone, thanks for joining. We'll get started in just a couple minutes. All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you everybody for joining. I'm Chelsea Woodland, Marketing Manager at JourneyTeam. This session is designed specifically for nonprofits. The reality that we see every day is that nonprofits are not short on passion. You're short on time, staff capacity, and clean processes. So that administrative work is stealing capacity and it shows up everywhere. Staff and volunteer fatigue, fragmented data, and reporting and compliance time consumed. So the question that we hear most often from the nonprofits we work with is not what AI tools should we buy? It's how do we relieve overwhelmed teams, reduce manual work, and create more space for mission delivery without increasing complexity. So today I brought two of the best minds from JourneyTeam and Microsoft with me today. And first I need to do some housekeeping items. So this session is being recorded. Your participation in this event is your consent to be recorded. There will be live captions that you can go ahead and turn on in your meeting controls. We have allotted some time for Q&A. You can also ask questions throughout the presentation using the button at the top of your screen. The recording will be provided to you within 5 days, and there will be a survey after the event that we would appreciate you taking. Now for the best minds I've brought. You'll be hearing from Eric Bynes, our CTO. He works closely with Microsoft and nonprofit leaders to translate emerging AI capabilities into real operating models that actually work in the field. And also from JourneyTeam, we have Mike Smith, a principal solution architect here, who, that is not right, a customer experience and Copilot solution architect, who works closely with Microsoft technologies to actually help turn AI concepts into secure real-world workflows. You'll also be hearing from Microsoft from Hassan, who is a senior digital specialist on the Microsoft side. He'll talk about what's new, what's real, and how nonprofits should really be thinking about the Agentic roadmap. This team is not just here to show you features and salesy stuff. They're here to share what we've actually been seeing in the field with real examples, real challenges, and real breakthroughs clients are having with AI today. A quick look at our agenda. First, we'll align on what it means when we say agents. What are we even talking about? And why 2026 is really a change in how we need to be looking and thinking about the AI landscape. We'll cover some agentic workflows, understand what's possible now. And again, if you have questions, please drop them into the questions box so we can get to those hopefully by the end of the session. All right, Eric, you're up.
Yeah. So I love doing these types of sessions. I love talking to folks, to our customers, to people at conferences. And I love asking, like, who's been asked to use AI or to explore AI at work? And usually it's, hey, we've been told that we have to do this. We need AI in our product. We need to be able to, do more with less. That's probably one that everybody hears. And it is everywhere right now. I follow a few different publications and some websites. There's a website out there called There's an AI for That. And there are hundreds, if not thousands, of apps being created every single day that are AI driven. And so it is just constant. And so we're here to try and help you clear through some of that noise and confusion to show you what is possible within the Microsoft ecosystem.
And just to kind of build on that, partly it's our fault as Microsoft for that problem, so I apologize on behalf of my organization. But to the next point earlier, like part of this session is we we have been through something ourselves within Microsoft, which is we are trying to make this whole mess a bit more simpler to understand. Part of that is we created this organization called Elevate. So as Chelsea mentioned, my name is Hassan. I work in our Elevate organization. For those of you who may or may not have heard of us, we are a very small team. It's about 50 of us across the company that work purely with nonprofits. So our entire job is to work with organizations like yourself, helping you get the same technology that large corporations have, and then actually getting you to use that stuff. Elevate is kind of 5 pillars that you see here. Previously used to be tech for social impact. Now we've expanded that to give us more kind of access and the ability to influence different parts of the community. I won't read the slide to you, but you can see it's branched out a lot more than just technology. What that means for us in the next section is that our mission and our belief still remains that we want to, we're still core to what we believe in as an organization, which is, empowering everyone on the planet to achieve more. And again, I wouldn't be a Microsoft employee if I didn't have a slide saying AI on it. So I'm getting out of the way quickly, which means that our tech is supposed to help you do what you want to do best, right? To Eric's point earlier, we'll go through some stuff later, which shows you how agents, how Copilot, how, all the things that you hear us mention in media and across the board everywhere really make it responsible and usable for you. So 3 pillars that we use as our commitment to AI and how we build it: people, skills, and opportunity for everyone. Those are the 3 things that we ground ourselves on when we build our models, when we construct these technologies. And so that's just as a backdrop and kind of re-anchoring you on what we do as an organization. Now, in the next section, you'll see, you probably heard of Copilot, and if you haven't, I envy you. There is about 86 to 90 different brands of Copilot across the company. And that's difficult for us to keep track of internally, quite honestly, but this is one way of simplifying some of the stuff we'll talk about today. So if you forget everything else, these 5 things are the things that I want to leave you with, which are chat, search, agents, notebooks, and creations. What does that mean? Day to day, you've all used some version of Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT in your day-to-day life, right? Chat is our version of that, but secure and it has the ability to talk about your information. So to Chelsea's point earlier, when you're doing stuff internally, when someone says, hey, we should be using AI, chat's normally the first thing people go to start questioning their documents, start building reports, that kind of thing. That's the first thing. The second thing is search. Search is the ability to go and ask a very clever friend, how do I find this thing that I'm looking for buried in the million documents? That's search. All that really does is it looks across your company and bring back information that you want. Very simple search and retrieval stuff. That's number 2. Number 3 is agents, which is where we will spend a lot of our time kind of today. And that's different definitions, different people, when you ask them, have a different way of explaining this. We have a version, we'll walk you through it, but think of an agent as someone who's a helper on your side that can go and do a number of different things based on a very specific parameter. We'll show you some stuff later, but they are a construction of all the technology you see from points 1 to 4. Very quickly, notebooks and create. Notebook is your single place. So think of OneNote for AI. That's kind of how I think about it, which is where you create projects, because everyone hates when you're using some AI and they're like, oh, I've forgotten what you told me 5 minutes ago. Notebooks tries to solve for that, which is it keeps a record of all of your organization, all of the things you put together, the projects, the documents, the things you want to do. And lastly, create. Create is no different to creating images, posters, videos, banners, runs on the same technology as Copilot, but it allows you to kind of get the logos that you want to build very quickly, get some nice images, get some documentation, PowerPoint development, all that kind of stuff comes from Create. So these 5 things are really what underpin the things that you can do in Copilot. There's a lot of Copilot, so if you go around on these 5, it will make it a little bit more sense for you to kind of get your head around what we're talking about. So in the next section, you'll see that this is very broad, right? And again, second thing a Microsoft employee does is have a logo on a slide. So there we go, I'm getting it all out of the way. When you think about how we build our technology, there's really three to 4 layers, right? And the best way to think about that is you don't need to worry about how it's built, where it's built, how it's secured, and kind of how to use it in the broadest sense, because we built everything in Azure. Azure is the cloud that we use. It hosts everything from Office to Power Platform, Dynamics, all the bits in between. The middle layer is where you have Power Platform, which is our application code base, where you as an individual or as a developer can go and really start to create applications that solve a very specific challenge within your organization using kind of Copilot Studio, which we'll talk about in a second, Pages, Power BI, all the things for you to build a complete solution without really going to custom dev. That's the second layer of technology. The top layer, which is where I focus on with this team here, is our Dynamics CRM and ERP solutions. They are the kind of backbone of how you run fundraising, donations, grants, gifts, all the things that you do day to day. They are almost the core of everything that you do. They are people focused, process focused, and really help you streamline everything that kind of goes in and out of an organization, top to bottom. So think of this as your fundraising platforms, your field service platforms, volunteers, engagement, your finance platforms, all the things that are business functions. I don't like to call them that. That's where Dynamics sits, again, built on the same thing. And then if you go into the next bit, you'll see the top two layers that are attached to that, which are a contact center platform, which is relatively new. It's about a year and a little bit old. What that does is it lets you have a fully fledged contact center that runs on the same information in the same databases across the same security profiles. So I can log into a contact center as an agent, have access to the same things that I would as anywhere else in the company. And that really brings us to the top, which is the things that you and I love to use every day: Outlook, PowerPoint, Word, Teams. All of that is built in the same way. The reason I'm showing you this is because the focus today is going to be very specifically and narrowly on agents. But the beauty of this architecture is that that agent can access the top to bottom layers of everything you see here. So whereas you hear someone saying, hey, let's build an app for this or an agent for this, that's wonderful, but it's kind of pointless if you don't have the right information feeding it in the right ways. So this is the kind of broad architecture of everything that we have. And you can see it's broad. This is not an advert for Microsoft. It's just to ground you on kind of where we're going today and how we've constructed what we have built. And I'll hand back to Chelsea to give you kind of a summary of why we are talking about this in 2026.
Thank you so much, Hassan. Appreciate it. So for decades, we've approached technology as something we implement, a tool, a system, a platform. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about how it's become a little bit more transformational. I know that you're probably tired about hearing about AI already. It's not just another tool, though. It's a catalyst that can really change how we're making decisions, how fast we can make those decisions, and how resilient we can be in the face of change. 2026 really is a turning point in that, because we're seeing organizations move from tools to assist individuals to systems that can actually run end-to-end workflows under governance. Eric, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Chelsea. I want to start with something that we hear from nonprofit leaders constantly. They don't come and ask for technology. They actually ask for time. They're resource constrained. They have people that go above and beyond. You work long hours, and you just need help. You need time back in your day so that you don't have to go and do your day job, and at the end of your day, then do all the paperwork to support your day job. So what's different right now with Microsoft and us at JourneyTeam as partners of Microsoft are we're not talking about like, hey, this is what's possible. We're now talking about what's working. And the reason is simple. We know what those ingredients are that make it work. And with Hassan's slide that he was just showing of that beautiful architecture and taking advantage of the full Microsoft stack, we now are able to come in and identify what are the repeatable components that allow us to be able to move from assisting to automating to orchestrating, kind of as this slide talks about. So as we think of these three phases, we've seen nonprofits move through these. Assist is your, hey, help me do something, but do it a little bit faster and a little bit better. This is writing an email, reminding me or summarizing a meeting, generating a report. For me, it's help me remember how to write these functions in Excel so that I don't have to memorize them anymore, right? It's all those little things that used to take snippets of our time throughout the day that now with chat and the assist motion, we're able to do those things quicker. Automate, this is really when it starts to get fun. This is where you're able to take the advantages of generative AI and the Copilot platform and the rest of the Microsoft stack and the ecosystem, and you start taking simple things like approvals. Hey, I need you to approve my expense report. I need notifications. We had a new application come in for a grant. We need a notification. The routing. Hey, instead of me approving that after I'm done, it needs to go to Mike. That's really the power when we start to take advantage of the workflows, the automation, and being able to remove what we would traditionally call like swivel chair integration of me turning to Mike, like, hey, Mike, will you approve that expense report that I submitted over to you? To now the system can do that. And then as we move into the agent era, this is where work that was done by a human can now be replaced either fully by an agent, by AI, or partially replaced where AI does the bulk of it and then a human still reviews and approves that. And the beautiful part of that in this orchestration is that instead of you pushing your work forward, the system can plan, act, and coordinate across those tools with your rules, your permissions, and your oversight to get those things done. And so, that's really what we're excited about. That's what we've worked with many customers about, and this is how we want to be able to help organizations start to get some of that time back. Let's talk about this a little bit more. So what is an agent, right? Really, an agent is just a system or a tool, right, that can perceive its environment, make decisions, and take actions to achieve a goal. And I talked about, whether it's fully autonomous and it does it, completely by itself, or if it needs some human intervention, either for an approval or to trigger the next step. Okay.
Sweet. Thanks, Eric. So let's ground this in what we see on the nonprofit side. So many nonprofits, as Eric mentioned, don't have a technology problem. They have a process and capacity problem. So it shows up typically what we see from our customers in three specific areas. So there's, of course, the staff and volunteer fatigue. You've got great people spending their time coordinating, chasing, and re-entering data. You've got fragmented systems and data, so things like spreadsheets, email threads, shared drives, line of business systems that don't talk. And then reporting and compliance pressure. So the work is high stakes and the data is hard to trust. So when we talk about agents, I want you to hear this. Agents are the way to return to the mission work by making operations smoother and reporting more reliable. So again, getting you and your team back to the things that they care about most. If you've ever heard a grant report due and realized 3 different people have 3 different versions of the numbers, you already understand why this matters.
Exactly. And to drill into this a little bit further and to discuss agents, they're not just more AI. So as we move forward here to the next slide, I want to talk about really the outcomes. And this really is the lens that nonprofits should use. Capacity. You're not trying to do less, you're trying to serve more people, whether this is your members, your constituents, your donors, whoever they may be, but with the same team, right? So we're looking to become more efficient with the capacity that we have. We need consistency. We need to be able to produce those numbers consistently every time so that we don't have 3 versions, we can get 1. And this is where standardizing your processes, understanding where to turn for knowledge, how do we access information, when somebody leaves, do we have the process integrated, not just on a Word document, but into the system so that new people coming in are able to onboard more quickly and efficiently. We talk about compliance and trust. You're managing donor data, oftentimes even the donations themselves. You're managing constituent data. You're managing, grant requirements. You're providing services. All of these things mean that you have regulatory compliance that you have to report back on, and people expect you to handle that with care, and you have to be trusted to be able to manage and provide those services and report it back. And then lastly, momentum. I need you to think about momentum. You don't want to try one thing and put a lot of effort into it only to see it sort of wither and die on the vine. The goal is, let's build something once and get multiple uses out of it. Build on that. Start to add additional functionality, patterns that you can use to scale across your programs. And this is where the Power Platform, like Copilot Studio, have really allowed a lot of our customers to be able to see those incremental gains and build on top of one another and start scaling and being able to address their capacity, consistency, and compliance and trust issues that they experience. And then I think we're going to go ahead and touch on some of the technology that's enabling all of this in the background.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Eric. So I think this also brings us back a little bit to what Hassan said in the beginning. The breadth of AI is everywhere, and Microsoft is really doing a lot of work to make that simple and make some magic work under the surface and behind the scenes. So it doesn't require action on our part; it's just happening and part of the secret sauce that Microsoft provides. So Work IQ is one of the most important behind the scene developments because a lot of AI demos fail in real life for one reason, a lack of context. The tool can write, it can summarize, but it doesn't understand how your organization works. So a lot of people have heard about like prompt engineering and things like that. There's a lot of value from the prompting process, but Work IQ kind of takes that context under the surface and applies it without us even putting that into our prompts. So Work IQ is about making Copilot and agents work aware by pulling together signals like work data. So things like emails, files, meetings, chats, what's actually happening within your business. Memory, so preferences, recurring workflows, relationships, how your team operates. It has an understanding of your org structure, of who your boss is, who you work with, the customers that you're working with, the way you like to speak. Inference, it connects signals to suggest next steps or route work intelligently. And when you put those together, you get agents that don't just respond, they can coordinate one with another. So two nonprofit flavored examples we love: a board packet agent that gathers KPIs, pulls programs, updates, drafts the narrative, and assembles the deck so the leadership isn't scrambling at the last minute. That gives you and your team time to review and absorb and consume that information versus all of the work required to go into the preparation process. Another one is the grant reporting agent. So one that compiles evidence, drafts sections, routes approvals, and tracks what's missing so you're not herding cats in email.
Great agent. Great agents. Grade A agents.
Yes. Another aspect here, now that Work IQ is about work context, Fabric IQ is about data meaning. So again, back to that visualization, we talked about those layers, and one of those layers being the data. Nonprofits live in a world where the same term can mean different things across programs. So client served, active participant, case closed, donor retained. If humans don't share definitions, agents can't operate reliably either. So Fabric IQ helps create shared definitions and metrics, so dashboard alerts and automations are built on the same language. Fabric IQ is how you get the single source of truth for board storytelling and donor transparency.
Yeah, those big words like the semantic model. It's how it connects everything. My favorite quote about how Fabric IQ works is data is the fuel for AI. So we know that it can work in your organization. It can find things. Work IQ is getting smarter and smarter, hence the IQs that Microsoft has put on top of all of these three components. But the more you invest in your data and in Fabric IQ, the faster it will learn, the better responses you'll get, the more you'll be able to do because you're providing that great fuel for your AI in the organization.
Love it. Yeah, great. The last one here is Foundry IQ. So Foundry IQ is the grounding layer and it's the trust piece. So Foundry IQ is designed to ground agents across sources like Microsoft 365 content. So again, your email, your Teams, your SharePoint, data platforms like Lakehouse, Power BI, operational systems, and then also custom apps, portals, forms, things that you've built. The outcome is the higher quality reasoning and safer actions because the agent is operating inside governance permissions and approved knowledge. And this is where JourneyTeam comes in because the power isn't just in the tools, it's in designing the workflows, the permissions, and the guardrails so you get the speed that you want without the risk associated.
Great
That's
examples.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, jump in.
Hassan.
I was saying, Mike, that's one of the things that we spend a lot of time on as a company. These are wonderful examples, and it kind of reinforces what we said a little bit earlier, which is you're seeing a lot of tech, and like no one really cares. We care about tech, but like, no one really cares about tech, right? And so what we are trying to do is show you here some examples of individuals using all of this stuff for their day-to-day, because really that's the business. At least that's the business that all of us are in, is to help you get to what you want to do. One of the great conversation I had last week was I was talking to another organization, and we were just talking about kind of what they want to do and achieve. And I sort of asked them like, hey, could you tell me what your donors information is like over the last 4 years? Who's the biggest? Who's the smallest? Like, what do you want to do? And the response was, that would be great, wouldn't it? I wish we could tell you all of that. So like, even things that we forget day to day, because to us, it's like, oh yeah, of course you would know this information. But even little things like that, that's kind of what we want to get to with agents. So you can start at a smaller level and try and figure out, okay, the example earlier of like, this is my information, ground it in this box. This box is secure, but give me what I need to know. That makes everyone's life a little bit easier. And that's the goal.
Love it. Those are great insights. Thanks, Hassan. So let's dive in, and we're going to talk about sort of the evolution. And here's how to think about Microsoft's model and why it is so powerful for nonprofits. So Copilot really is the front door. It's the UI for AI. You've probably heard Satya say this. I think at least 1,000 times or more. It's now ingrained into my thick skull. But this is, again, the UI that people can engage with, interact with every day. It's the 5 things that Hassan showed earlier. By the way, I love notebooks, and you can actually put your Copilot notebooks in your OneNote. It's the best thing ever. I work in OneNote using my Copilot notebook. So sorry, quick aside and a go use it. It's awesome.
We love OneNote. Don't worry. We run our entire business on OneNote. It's great. Sorry, go.
No, you're good. But again, this is how can I use Copilot in Teams and Outlook and in Word, Excel, and it's what's familiar. It's where we go. It's where we ask questions. It's where we get information. Copilot Studio, this is where you can really start to shape your organization. This is where your workflows, your processes, and your business language, your guardrails, your rules, and your systems that you operate out of come together. I love Copilot Studio. So I probably spent way too much time this last year in Copilot Studio, but it allowed us to do a number of things, again, not just internally, but for our customers to be able to give them some of that time back. And then lastly, agents, these are the doers. So they don't just answer like the front door in Copilot. This is where you can actually execute and coordinate tasks, steps, and action items that need to be done without having to remember to do them all yourself. And below all of this is the governance that Mike was just talking about, and as Hassan started with. This is all coordinated through the Copilot control system so that you get to see who's using what is it accessing, is our information still secure? All of that is still grounded in trust and responsibility within the Microsoft ecosystem.
And one of the things this is great, Eric, this is ingrained into my thick skull as well. So I'm with you on that. One of the things that we often hear is Copilot Studio and agents and orchestration, all these words that when you really boil it down to what we're trying to get to, and I hope this session helps you do that, is it doesn't really matter what agent you build. It's more about, if you go back to the things that we spoke at the start of the components of search, notebooks, retrieval, that kind of thing. It's like, can you use something like that in your day-to-day to help you do something better? Like a small example, like I work with a number of organizations. A lot of them do fundraising, as you can imagine. And recently we worked with one that built a very straightforward agent that went to the web, looked at 990 reports of organizations they work with, pulled out their information, put it in a table, and that saved them like weeks of work. So it's not like a fancy agent. You'll never hear about it splashed out in the news or in Microsoft's own case studies that we make. But it's really those little things that are saving people hours in their day, and again, I will address this directly. This is not to say that is replacing people. It is the focus of our agentic story is that we want to, especially for nonprofits, there's already such few people doing this great work, right? So our job is to not have that story. It's actually to help you do more of what you already do, but slightly maybe more fun or maybe more interesting in an interesting way. So that's just to add to kind of what Eric said.
Love it. Okay, Chelsea.
Thank you. All right, next, that's all you have to hear about the technology. Now we're going to move into what it looks like for real nonprofit workflows. So what you can automate now, what people are automating now, what agents are orchestrating, and how to get started without feeling like you're trying to boil the ocean. I want to note these are not futuristic ideas. These are practical starting points and things that are actually in practice today. All right, Eric.
Yeah.
You again.
So these are some examples we want to jump in. These are the 5 workflows that show up almost everywhere with the nonprofits that we work with. So regardless of size or your mission or the services that you provide, these are repeatable, they're high volume, and they're measurable. And that, that's a clue of, as you start to think about things that you want to agentify or start to automate in your organization, that's what you want to look for. Is it repeatable, measurable, and do we do enough of it? Do we repeat it enough? Is it high volume? So fundraising and donor operations, these are communication heavy. There's lots of outreach, there's updates, there's personalization. Copilot and agents can help scale that without losing that personal touch. Grants and compliance, these are deadline driven and error sensitive. And so automation isn't about the speed, it's about reducing the paperwork, helping you get to the point where you can review and finalize without having to take all the time that it previously did. Casework or the program delivery, the services that you provide, this is really where your mission comes to life. And unfortunately, paperwork or administration time steals it, right? Like you don't have enough time to do the mission because you're spending too much time doing the work. And this is where we really want to make nonprofits feel relief first, so that you do feel connected back to your mission and seeing the good that you're delivering. A couple other things, volunteer management, it's a coordination nightmare. And then operations and finance, this is really to help you keep processes consistent and not fragile and make sure that you're still able to keep the doors open and run and operate.
And one small one to add to that as well, these are all workflows. Sorry, I will stop talking, I promise. These are all workflows that individual agents are built on. One of our kind of core ways that we're trying to make this more accessible also is that we're embedding a lot of this technology within our suites. So if you look at Dynamics as an example, it has a program casework agent, a grant management agent, a donation agent. So and all of that comes pre-built. And to the slides that we were talking about earlier, it runs on the same mechanisms as Foundry IQ and Fabric IQ. So it's a bit of a divergent path where you can build what you want to build with these use cases. You can also just buy the technology as a full thing and then use it for a number of different things. So just the different ways we've cut it just to make it easier for people to get to. Not that doing that makes it any easier, but we're trying.
Thanks, Hassan. All right, Mike.
Yeah, so next we're going to talk about how nonprofits succeed with AI adoption, so not just what they build. It's kind of interesting because I think there's this common concern across AI that AI is going to replace people, but there's consistently a people story inside AI. We need people who use it. We need people who receive the impact. And the beauty of AI too, in a lot of ways, is it's a tool that everyone can use. It's not specific to specific personas or specific roles. So it's a really impressive thing on the people side as well. So we see 4 very clear waypoints. So the first waypoint being personal productivity. And we talked a little bit about that. I think Hassan even mentioned a couple of the other, non-Microsoft options. But really, this is a place where everybody has had some experience, right? This is where most people start. So they use Copilot to reduce manual effort, summarize content, or draft faster. It's low risk, high confidence, and it builds comfort. So that's a great place to start. Again, it's not a thing that we have to boil the ocean with. It's a place that everyone can get some experience with AI. The second place we typically see as a waypoint is the personal automation. So it's the automation of your own repetitive tasks. So things like Outlook rules, Power Automate flows, meeting summaries. This is where people stop saying AI is interesting and they start saying this actually saved me time. The third waypoint is when then teams begin to standardize. So shared copilots, common prompts, consistent outputs like status reports or meeting notes. This is where quality improves, not just speed. So
and what you'll see in your organization really is this sort of sharing and cyclical pattern between waypoint 2 or the checkpoint of personal automation, and then Mike looking over my shoulder, or vice versa, me looking over that's usually how it is. And I'm like, Mike, that's really awesome. I love that. Can I get that? And so share the prompt, share the Copilot, share the agent. That's where we see a lot of momentum. We talk about, momentum builds momentum, or like wins build wins. These two together, when teams collaborate and they show one another what they're doing, it has accelerated our adoption internally at JourneyTeam. It's what we teach our customers to do, and it's really what sets them up for the fourth waypoint.
Yeah, love it. So finally, the fourth waypoint being team automation. So automation becomes shared infrastructure. Tasks are created automatically, risks are flagged early, and information flows to the right people without chasing. So each waypoint builds skills, trust, and imagination. By the time the team gets to agents, they're ready. They're not overwhelmed.
Love it. Okay, Chelsea.
All right, next up, we have a video that shows what this looks like in the real
Thanks.
world. And this is from Centro de la Familia. Go ahead and play it.
There's no sound.
One moment, please.
No worries.
Wonders of sharing video sound. I did wear the same shirt, maybe not on purpose, but then everybody will see that I actually did talk to these people.
This is not an AI generated video.
This is not AI generated. This was a real story and a real use case. And if we can't get the video to play, you can always go find it on our website or even on Microsoft's website. They have shared this as well. Okay.
There it is.
Perfect. Thank you.
At Central, we prioritize our relationships with our families. During our application process, our family service specialists interview and have this conversation with families where we collect thousands of points of data that are required for Head Start. We call it a narrative. The family service specialist is tasked to summarize that into the narrative in CFIT.
CFIT is our collection and reporting system. Information from the entire program has to be collected, recorded, and then analyzed.
When we started meeting with JourneyTeam is when we first heard about the Power Platform.
This specific example with Ursea, it's a family services specialist agent, were narratives that were built. So they would ask a number of questions. They would have to compile those. They'd have to put them into a document, into this narrative assessment. They'd have to then send those off and save them. And it took a lot of time. And with the help of our agent that we built in Copilot Studio, it's ready to go in a fraction of the time.
The agent is helping us comb that data set.
We've reduced the amount of back and forth before it can get approved.
I think what's great about the agent that we've built is it's in Copilot. It's part of the Power Platform. It's embedded into the tools that they use every day, so in CFIT, in Teams, and it was very easy to deploy and set up.
It is definitely easier to get changes implemented with the agent because we meet with the developers regularly during both the development and the testing phase.
I think the main thing we were looking for with the Power Platform in helping Centro was being able to give them something that they could build on for the next 5 to 10 years without having to worry about, do they own their data? How much is it going to cost? Will it be able to scale appropriately? I'm excited about the future of AI because I think it puts power into the hands of the end users.
Everything's been better, faster with agent. We're really proud of what we have here.
Awesome. Always good to hear it from the mouth of a customer. All right, Eric, you want to talk a little bit about that?
So why did it work? I mentioned it a little bit. It was built using the Power Platform and the Dataverse data. So we've built them a system in Power Platform using a model-driven app. It took advantage of the infrastructure that they already had. So they had processes. They're a compliant organization. They're considered like a Premier and a Medallion Head Start program. But we were able to take those questionnaires and those narratives that they had to do and then put that into the instructions and into the flow of this agent that we built, the Ursea agent, and it produced clear, repeatable outcomes. And now this is it's saving them so much time. And I actually think it takes longer than that. That was probably the lowest threshold. Normally, it would take them about an hour between the time of typing it up, summarizing it all, going back to Power Platform or their CFIT application, entering the data. Now all this is done within a minute or less.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, our next one is actually an agent that we do use internally at JourneyTeam. We see ourselves as our customer zero for agentic AI, so we aren't deploying things to customers that we haven't extensively utilized and tested internally. And this is one of those examples. It's our IT help desk and escalation agent. It's called Nate. N-A-I-T. Yeah, okay. It's built on the same Microsoft stack, and it's a great example of how agents move beyond experimentation and into everyday operations.
Yeah. So there's no sound on this one, thankfully, so we don't have to worry about if that's going to play. But I'll just explain this. So we use SharePoint as our intranet, in that there are several pages, there's documents that explain all of the different IT processes that we have, all of the issues that we've encountered, instructions for people how to fix things. And we built Nate, which stands for Not Actually IT. And it's also our IT manager's name is Nate. And so we thought it was a funny play on words, but it can answer all of our common IT questions. What's the guest password for the Wi-Fi? Or how do I, connect to the printer? Or how do I reopen an opportunity in Dynamics, right? Like
Or
all
why
of those
isn't
questions.
sound working on my video?
Oh yeah. Or why isn't the sound working on my video when I play it on a webinar? But Nate will go and scan those. He checks official sources of knowledge first, and then he will go to the broader web if it's something that we don't have documented to try and help that person resolve. Now, why is this helpful? It's helped reduce the amount of incoming tickets that get created dramatically. We saw an 80% reduction in common IT requests after we launched Nate. And so we're very excited about it. We're very proud of it. It is a fairly, robust agent. You can see here, there's lots of steps in the topics, and it's calling out other things. It sets passwords for people in our, LastPass password vault. So it does a lot of things really well, and it calls other agents, and we're just really proud of it. So I think, Chelsea, that's probably all we need to explain about Nate. Why does it work? We had the processes documented. We had the underlying infrastructure and the data, and we knew what our goal was, which was to try and reduce the number of tickets that we were getting.
Awesome.
Hey.
All right, we are going to jump into next steps. We are reaching time. Eric, you want to briefly cover this?
Would I ever? I would love to. So before, let's leave you with a practical option if you're thinking, hey, this all makes sense, but how do I start? What we've learned from organization is it's the first win that's really the one that starts the momentum. It's not necessarily a huge transformation, but it's the one that gets people believing and seeing results. And if you think of it from that way, the fast start is our way of being able to work with you to get a pilot done quickly. So we do our fast start. You come in, we say, what's your scenario? What's the thing that you want to do? Give us one use case. And then what we do is we come out of that with a working agent that is usable, it's in production, and it provides value immediately. So that's the goal when we do our Copilot and Power Platform Fast Start is in 3 weeks or less, we want to get you a usable model or a usable pilot that people could begin to work in quickly. So again, and the mindset here is the pilot is for learning, it's not for perfection, because we want to teach you. We want to give you the skills. We want you to be able to walk away from it to go and build the next one and learn from that, and then continue to get those wins and stack them on top of one another. And the agenda, right? So in just 3 weeks, this is what we do. So we kind of do the kickoff and the inspire. So this is where we go through the goals. We talk about what is and isn't possible. So as much as we always like to say that technology can fix and do everything, we also want to be realistic and set some clear constraints and goals. We'll do an assessment. This is where we try and identify what are those repeatable, measurable, and scalable opportunities. We'll do the design with you. This is where we'll identify how will we know if this was successful. We'll run the pilot, and then at the end, we'll do sort of our readout measurement and determine what the next steps are.
Perfect. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
You're
Eric.
welcome. Am I doing
All
this
right.
one too, Chelsea?
I got it. Before
Okay,
we wrap
great.
up, just one slide about who we are here at JourneyTeam. We specialize in guiding organizations through every phase of their Microsoft journey and with every Microsoft solution. Our strengths really lie in how we connect the dots across the ecosystem, whether that's Business Central, Power Platform, Copilot, Power BI, Azure, security, all of it. And because of our strong partnership with Microsoft, that often enables us to help clients find workshops, tools, and other opportunities to help accelerate their impact and also really bring their whole ecosystem together in a aligned, efficient, and cost-effective way. So whether you're just starting your journey or scaling your AI strategy, we are here to help you do it right. So thank you all so much for joining us today. I really hope you're walking away with some new ideas, maybe some clear next steps. If you would like to talk about your specific use cases or where you're at with AI or other Microsoft technologies, let's connect. You can visit us anytime at journeyteam.com or reach out directly at info@journeyteam.com. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
There's a few questions, Shelby, before we wrap up. Sorry that
I
came in.
forgot. I'm so
No,
sorry.
you're good. You're good.
Told you
You're
guys
good.
to submit questions, and then I
yeah.
just forgot about them.
Yeah, I think it's better if we just talk it through because some of these are quite interesting. So I can read them out, and then we can just jump on whoever wants to jump on it. So the first one is, are Work IQ, Fabric IQ, and Foundry IQ the solutions that JourneyTeam designs? The answer is no. They're technologies that Microsoft has, and JourneyTeam builds on top of them. But they're foundation technologies that we build and design. The next one, this is a good one, is, and we get this a lot, I'm sure. So as a non-profit organization, our biggest constraint is budget. What is the minimum investment required to implement these tools, and how can we effectively measure the return on investment?
Yeah, question. So we just talked about that a little bit. Hassan and his team will make sure that at least on the licensing side, you get the best pricing possible. I will say that nonprofit pricing from Microsoft is one of the cheapest, most competitive offers out there when you look at, business platforms. And then for us, we understand that that's a constraint. So both our Fast Start or what we call our Sherpa program, if you go to our website, you can check that out. These are very low cost ways of entering into the design of these solutions. Both of them are intended to be able to get you up, running, and working in something quickly and cost efficiently. And then in those, as you mentioned, like part of our goals is we want to measure what the impact will be so that you can go back to whether it's your governing board or as you prepare for your fundraising or your grants for the next fiscal year, you're able to clearly, illicitly state what those investments will be returning.
Yeah, and I think part of the framework, thank you, Eric, that Eric showed was there's a very clear section on defining KPIs and metrics that we can go back to. So yeah, that it's all built into that program. Thank you, Eric. This is a longer one, so bear with me. How can I encourage colleagues who are hesitant about adopting AI agents to be more receptive, particularly in an environment where the IT department is often only engaged when issues arise? This is especially challenging given our cost concerns, as Copilot licenses are limited within the organization. I think you kind of touched on this before, Eric, with Nate. But at least from my perspective, it's difficult. I'll be honest with you. But I think from a tech-only standpoint, there's sandboxes. Eric mentioned a little bit earlier, like we like to speak to people who are the closest to the problem, because they're the ones that actually truly understand the pain. So we can have all the exact meetings in the world. Cool. But really, when you get individuals to start building stuff, I think that's the first part of the tech. You have sandbox environments where you can give that to individuals who are in the business or in other parts. And then from a kind of usage perspective, you can let them build something. Licenses, to your point, are limited, but to Eric's point, they're not cost prohibitive at all, especially for nonprofits. So you can start with a couple, and then as your usage grows, you can expand or reduce depending on what you want to do. I think, is that Eric?
But I was going to say
Fine,
also maybe,
please.
yeah, one other thing there. Microsoft is starting to include like a very basic Copilot option included with the other licenses. And the reason that's valuable is because it still allows for the security mechanism that Microsoft provides. Now, it doesn't have some of the more robust AI features like the Fabric IQ, Work IQ, things like that. But as far as like the chat and assistant aspect, it's a great place to start. And sometimes back to our presentation, that can be the catalyst for the momentum that you want. You know, maybe then you see the ROI and IT can better justify the cost because it's not about the cost, it's about the savings, it's about the increased opportunity. So there is an ROI there. It's just, you know, it takes time for folks to see that and understand what it can do.
My last point on that, just a quick phrase is, you know, James, great question. This is a non-technical answer. Envy is the best driver to get other people engaged and wanting to change. So if they see that you or those in your department are now more productive, you're producing better meeting recaps, you're doing better summaries and all those things, you can drop those hints, you can share. We do a weekly share where we do an office hours and we all talk about what are we doing and how are we using it. But envy is a great driver to encourage that adoption.
And you have our details as well, so feel free to drop any one of us a message, and we can follow up with you with more specifics as well.
Yeah.
I think there was another question, but it's pretty much been answered, so I won't read that out. I think that was it. Sorry, Chelsea, cut you off.
No, you're good. I think you did address all the questions. Last one is just, are we sharing the recording? And yes, you'll receive that within 5 days.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And again, to Hassan's point, if you do want to talk more or have any questions, just want to discuss the technology and how it would work in your ecosystem, please do reach out to any of us. Again, it's journeyteam.com or info@journeyteam.com or any of the fine presenters here today. Thank you for taking this time, spending it with us. Really hope that it brought some ideas.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
See you later.
Okay.